Hi guys, Julia here from JM Squared Vintage. Welcome back to the channel. I am here today with something a little bit different. So as you can probably tell from the title, I'm going to be going over 10 different things that you can be doing right now to ensure that you are getting consistent sales in your reselling business. But before we get started here, if this is your first time here, if this is your first time stumbling on my channel, first and foremost, welcome. I am Julia, that is my name. We talk all things thrifting and vintage and the business of reselling on the internet here. If that sounds like something that you might be into, consider hitting subscribe down below. I would love to have you along on this journey. But without further ado, guys, we've got a lot to get through. So whether you are a brand new reseller who's just listing your first items or somebody who's been doing this for years and years and years, let's dive into these 10 little things that you can be doing to ensure that you are getting consistent sales no matter the economy, no matter the environment, no matter what's going on with the platform. So lots to get into, so go grab yourself a snack, grab yourself a drink. You know I've got my matcha latte. So sit back, relax, and let's get into the tips. So the first tip here we've got is you gotta live by the algorithm. So you've probably heard the term algorithm a lot, but do you really know what an algorithm is? You may know basically what it does, but do you know how it works? So you can think of an algorithm as like a formula, a proprietary formula. So each and every platform that we use has its own proprietary algorithm. They each do it differently. Usually like the makeup of the algorithm is heavily guarded. Think like the Coca-Cola recipe, KFC 12 spice blend, whatever it is, like these things are basically the bread and butter that makes them what they are. It's like Google's algorithm thing is guarded like Fort Knox. So what it does, say you're a buyer and you're looking for a pair of mother jeans. Cool. So you type in mother jeans, whatever, into the search bar. The algorithm is going to take what you have input in the search bar. It's also going to take data that it has gathered on you over time, right? So it might be your search history, it might be your purchase history, it might be your location, it might be sizes that you've input into the system. So it's going to take your input and the data it's collected with you, and it's going to run it against its own set of like weighted measures. So this is where the proprietary thing comes into play, and this is where we as sellers really have to understand what they're doing so we can create our stuff to play as nice as possible with the algorithm. So there can be many different aspects in an algorithm, right? Like there can be many different factors that play into it. Of course, you're going to have keywords. We'll talk about that in a minute. You might have a recency thing, so how recently the listing was posted. It might have a reputation score. So like what's your reputation as a seller? It might have a recency score for you, like you as a seller, when was the last time you were on the platform? So it's going to run it against all of these things, and it's going to return to the potential buyer all of the search listings ranked in order of where they rank on their algorithm, with the top being which should be the most relevant to your search term. That's the goal of an algorithm. Basically, once you understand that the algorithm is really king in this, and a lot of what we're going to talk about today pertains to the algorithm, because at the end of the day, if you're not playing by that algorithm, your stuff is not going to be shown up to potential buyers and it's not going to be bought. So we got to live and die by the algorithm, and hopefully through this video, we are going to demystify a lot of kind of how that works. So you as a seller know what you are dealing with and how best to play within their game. I hope that helps. Algorithms are wildly complex things, but just so you understand that like when you type something into a search bar, an algorithm is basically going to do everything it can to get you, per the intent of the algorithm, it should be returning back to you the best possible results for your query paired with your other data. That is the ultimate goal of an algorithm. So when it comes to resale platforms, the algorithm truly is king. So the second tip here is keyword, keyword, keyword. And I'm going to start this off by saying that a couple months ago, I did an entire video on how to keyword and basically walked you through my process of building a listing. I will link that down below. If you've got 15 minutes or so, I think it's like 15, 16 minutes, I recommend you go and check it out. Hopefully it's helpful for you. But for the purposes of this video, I want you to understand how the keywords play with the algorithm. You're going to hear me say that word a lot this video, so just bear with me. I promise it has everything to do with getting consistent sales. So in general, in most algorithms, now I'm going to start this off by saying that nobody knows what's under the hood of any algorithm. If we knew what was truly under the hood of an algorithm, we'd be able to game the system. And the integrity of all these platforms stand on the fact that their algorithm has integrity, right? So if this kind of stuff is of interest to you, I recommend you go and take a look at what happened during Google's Panda update, like Panda, like the animal. They named the versions of their algorithms, and Panda was this massive update they pushed, I want to say in like 2010, 2011. And basically these SEO agencies, search engine optimization agencies, basically figured out some of the core components of the algorithm and started to game the system. And these agencies were using these tricks to get their clients' businesses up to the top of the search rankings. And basically what happened was once Google pushed this update to filter out these little tricks, all of these businesses that were paying big bucks to these SEO agencies got absolutely leveled in search results. I'm talking from like first result to like third page. And if you know anything about how often you make it to the third page of your search results when you're searching on Google, you know how absolutely catastrophic that can be for a company. So we don't know the inner workings, but we do know some of the core components. And the general rule of thumb when it comes to optimizing your listings is just put out quality content and you should be good no matter what. It's when you try to game the system, you try to really keyword stuff, that kind of stuff gets picked up in filters eventually, or it'll get kind of pushed out in a further update. So just create quality listings and you should never have anything to worry about. But one of the key components here in an algorithm is keywords. There's no search algorithm in the world that does not take keywords as one of its top heaviest components. So you've got to play with keywords. I can't tell you how many times I'm like scrolling through Poshmark and I'll see a listing for something that's special, right? Like say like a Johnny Was, beautiful blouse, and it'll just say like Johnny Was embroidered top. And then the listing will just say Johnny Was embroidered top. That's not enough. Now, granted, Johnny Was is kind of a standout because people will search just for Johnny Was silk top because they are very special. But when you're dealing in the more bread and butter type stuff, so say you've got like a Chico's long sleeve t-shirt, this is a great selling item, right? Like this is something that people seek out and people buy, but you're competing with every other long sleeve cotton t-shirt. So how do you make that stand out? Now, I'm talking all platforms here. So for the most part, everything I'm saying here is applicable to all platforms. Depop's a little bit differently because they don't necessarily have a title, but the same concept applies. You're just going to use basically the first line of your listing to be your title. So in your title, you want to use your heavy hitter keywords, right? So these are your descriptors. So this is brand name, color, so say I'm talking about this t-shirt, slub knit, Pima cotton, 3/4 length sleeve, V-neck t-shirt. So somebody types in like light blue long sleeve shirt, doesn't put in Chico's, you're still going to get pulled up because you've got light blue long sleeve and t-shirt. If you think about your title, imagine that you are describing what you are holding in your hands to somebody. Okay, this has long sleeves, this has embroidery, this has whatever, all of your key like visual descriptors. When you get into the body, you want to repeat all of those heavy hitter keywords, and then you're going to put in your kind of style keywords, right? So cottagecore, boho, whatever it is. Again, go and watch that video. I go really into depth into all of these different things. I also have a video that I did recently about trends and aesthetics, which also might help you figure out your keywords. I'll link both of those down below. But at the end of the day, keywords in every single search algorithm, be it Google or Poshmark or eBay or Mercari, whoever, your keywords are your number one tool that you can use to get as many eyeballs as possible on your listings. If you are not putting keywords in your listing, you are not showing up in search results as you should. At the end of the day, resale is largely a numbers game. There are lots of other people selling the same stuff that you are, with rare exception. So you need to make sure that you are ranking above them in search rankings, and your keywords is your number one heaviest hitter tool to do that. So the number 3 tip, consistency is key. Now, again, we don't know exactly what is under the hood of any algorithm. However, I've been in marketing for 20 years. I've been playing in SEO for a very, very long time. I've been doing resale for a very long time. I have never met an algorithm that doesn't favor consistency. When I say consistency, I mean the amount of content, the amount of items that you are putting on the platform. So for example, in Google SEO world, the Google algorithm is going to give favor to sites that are posting regular content, right? So you might have written the greatest article of all time about, how to climb Everest. But if this is the only article you have ever posted and you haven't posted anything since and you never posted anything before, guess what? It might be the best article in the world. It might be keyworded to the gods, but it's never going to get shown because it's a standalone, right? Algorithms like consistency. So when I say that in terms of resale, that means posting new items regularly. Now, I'm a big fan of sustainability. There are a lot of people who will go on these absolute tears. Oh, I listed 50 items today. I listed 120 items today. That's fine and good. But if you are just doing that, on Tuesday and then not posting anything for the next 3 weeks, that will all be moot. Algorithms like users that just keep posting. So if what is sustainable to you is posting one thing a day, post one thing a day. Like, you're better off, instead of posting 7 items on Sunday and not posting anything else for the rest of the week, you're better off just sitting down and posting one thing a day. So whether that means you sit down and you post one thing a day, or you load 7 things into your drafts in one day, and then every day you just kind of take a few seconds to list it, either way, if you can post every day or as close to every day as possible, that's the ideal situation. Depending on your volume, that might be 1 item a day, that might be 5 items a day, that might be 10 items a day, that might be 20 items a day. It just depends on what you're doing. But whatever it is that you do, I highly recommend that you figure out what is sustainable for you and you do it every day. Now, I'm a big proponent of cross-listing, and I highly recommend that you also cross-list. Putting all of our eggs in one basket is a real dangerous game to play. I use Vendoo. Personally, this is not sponsored by them. I have worked with them in the past, but this is not sponsored by them. I just really like their platform. If you're interested, I have a link below if you want to check it out. But if you have not started cross-listing, I highly recommend that you do that. And I leverage the draft functions. So like for me, sitting down and taking an hour and a half every day to list however many items is a little bit much sometimes, or I'm traveling or whatever the case may be. I like to always have, X amount of listings in my drafts so that if I'm having a really busy day, it'll take me just a few minutes to get in there and publish a few listings and boom, I'm done for the day. Do your listing consistently and do it at a sustainable rate. That's the big thing. Like, you have to be able to sustain. Everybody can have these grand visions of, I can list 100 things a day, whatever. Like, be realistic with yourself. Do you have kids? Do you have a full-time job? Do you have what, if you've only got 30 minutes a day, you're not going to be able to do 100 listings every day. Just make it consistent. Even if it's a slow trickle, make it consistent. Every algorithm I've ever worked with really likes consistency. So be consistent and make it sustainable for you. My next tip here is be an active participant. And this is primarily in the world of Poshmark. It's not necessarily as important a thing in other platforms. But Poshmark at its core, the way it was built, is that it is a social app. So the more active you are on the app, the better you're going to be showing up in their algorithm. A lot of people, as they get bigger, they'll use basically an application that shares their listings for them. I personally use Posh Sidekick. I think they're great. Again, not sponsored by them. I've never worked with them in the past, but I have a link down below if that is something that you're interested in. There are other platforms out there. I think Posher VA is really great. There's a couple different things. So you just have to see like what works for your budget and your unique needs. But you've got to share your items. One of the big things that Poshmark leans on in their algorithm is recently shared, right? So typically when you say you're searching for a pair of mother jeans, generally the first things that show up are going to be things that have either been recently listed or recently shared. And there is a distinction between the two, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So if you aren't already sharing your items, just know that you don't have to go in and do them individually. Poshmark does have a bulk share feature on its app, and I'm recording this in January of 2025. So if there's been updates since then, I apologize, but as of the time of filming, this is how you do it. If you go into your closet in the app, in the upper right-hand corner, there's going to be a little like wrench. You'll see like a little tool, like a little wrench kind of X up at the top. If you click on that and look down about halfway through the list, you'll see bulk listing actions. You're going to select share to followers. If you do that a couple times a day, maybe you do it first thing in the morning and maybe like right after dinner or whatever, that should keep your listings pretty high up in those search results. So that leads me to my next tip, and this is going to be primarily like Poshmark focused once again, and that is to build your audience. And the reason I say to do this is because when you are sharing your listings, to your followers. You're not sharing it to all of Poshmark. So there's a distinction between sharing an item and listing an item. When you list an item, that is newly listed, and that is, again, part of that algorithm they pull in the newest listed items to the top of the search results. They also pull in just shared, which is going to be a little bit less weighted than something that was just listed, but just shared goes into the feeds, like the home feeds. So like when you open up your Poshmark app and you kind of scroll down, you see what's going on. If you've just shared something, it'll show up in those feeds for your followers. If you don't have a ton of followers, then sharing is largely a moot point. So you can go through and follow new Poshers. If you have an app like My Posh Sidekick automatically follows people, build that audience how you can. And every once in a blue moon, I'm sure some of you have experienced this, where all of a sudden one day you just get 25 notifications of people that have just followed your closet. When people are new to Poshmark, Poshmark automatically follows like several hundred users for them, just to kind of build that news feed for them, right? So every once in a blue moon, you'll get like the good grace of Posh using your closet as something that the new Poshmark users are automatically following. So if you ever had that happen to you, that's what's going on. But I do recommend, especially with Poshmark, put some focus into building that audience. Follow a lot of people, follow back a lot of people, and the more people that you follow, they'll follow you back. Followers will just kind of grow exponentially over time. And if you do have a sharing app or a sharing bot, make sure you have those settings for following users set up, because it's super, super valuable. You want to get as many people in your followers as possible, because every time you share, not only is it going to show up higher on search rankings for everybody in Poshmark, but it'll show up just like on the newsfeed of people that follow you. And that can be super, super valuable. So my next tip is timing matters, right? So when you list a new item, you have this like magical window of time for the next like 10, 15 minutes where, so say you list a pair of American Eagle jeans, of which there are probably hundreds of thousands of American Eagle jeans out there on the resale market. It's a mall brand, super popular, whatever. So you are in high competition for items like that. So when your item is just listed, it will be on the top of search results for everybody in Poshmark. It'll be above things that have just been shared. So you have this little window, and you want to make sure that you're maximizing that little window. If the only time that you have to list is like 3 a.m, that's a bummer. But I understand it. People's schedules are all over the place. But if you're able to, think about so say you work a normal 9 to 5 and you've got kids and whatever. Think about what times you happen to be scrolling on your phone. Is it first thing in the morning when you're having your coffee and after you've put the kids to bed? Probably, right? That's probably the window that you're sitting in. So you want to make sure that you are listing around the same time that the majority of people, and that's going to be your, 9 to 5 parents, you're going to want to list the same time that they're generally using their phones. So that's usually going to be early in the morning or sometime around like 8 p.m. So timing matters. I mean, obviously, if you are selling things that are a little bit more like youth focused, if you're selling things that are bigger in like the college world, you want to think about what timing works for them. If you do a lot of business in like scrubs, you might be dealing with like nursing schedules. So just think about what it is that you're selling, who you're selling to, and just put some thought into when generally they will be scrolling on their phone. Because if you can make your listings just listed, and this goes for every platform. Like for example, Mercari. I hope Mercari starts to build up now that they've edited their fee structure. If I list something and it gets likes, generally every single like that it gets, every single like and view that it gets happens in the first day. After that, it's a slow trickle. So that newly listed function is super, super important. If you can figure out the timing that works best for what you are selling, you will have that much more advantage over everybody else that's selling the same thing. So timing matters. Next up here, and this is a controversial one, at least for me, and I know a lot of you out there are not a huge fan of them, and that is to do live events. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying I don't do live events, at least for right now. I'm not somebody who likes to really put a crazy amount of urgency onto anybody's head when they go to purchase from me. And that's just me, and that's how I want to do business. But a lot of people have a ton of fun with live events. They'll go to the bins and they'll just pull stuff straight out of the, whatever it is. I know people are really successful with it. And if that's your game, like that's amazing. I love that for you. It's not for me, but that is just me and how I want to do business. So if that is something that you are into, or if that is something that you've been thinking about, you're open to the option of doing it. I don't think that there's any question that Poshmark is favoring people who are doing live events. And I'm going to be specific in saying that they're favoring people who are doing like live, like in-person events, not silent shows. That means like you holding up things, selling things at auction, etc. I don't think that there's any question that they are favoring people who do those in the algorithm. It is also a fabulous way to build your audience. It is also a fabulous way to build your community. So if that is something that you have been thinking about, you're open to it, I say just do it, because it can only help you. You may not sell anything. You may not get a ton of people in your first show. That's fine. Consistent live sellers build their audience by being consistent. We go back to that consistency is key thing that also comes into play here in the live shows. So if it's something that you've been thinking about, just do it. Do your first one. Know you're going to feel probably pretty silly. Know you probably won't have a ton of people in there, but that's okay. Your audience will build over time. And a lot of people, like I said, have great rapport with their buyers. They make it a really fun event, and that's amazing. So if that's something you've been thinking about, like, do it. All of the incentives are there for you to do it. So you should just rip off the Band-Aid and do it. Also, I know that timing matters with those as well. So I can't speak too much to the timing of live events. Actually, if any of you have great tips in terms of like what you sell and when you see the best audiences on live shows, put it down in the comments below. Help your fellow sellers out. I can't really speak to it. I don't have the data on that, but pay attention to how many viewers you get in your shows at which time. You'll figure out through trial and error, through doing it, what time works best for you. But if anybody has any insights like off the top, especially for those people that are just starting, put it down in the comments below and help your fellow sellers out. Number 8, this is one of my favorite tips, and that is to relist. This applies to all platforms. Relisting is your friend. So Poshmark in general has this 60-day window, and I just kind of go by that because it gives me a nice like framework as to like when I can relist my items. And again, I use a cross lister, so this is really easy for me to do. But once your listings are 60 days old, or stale as they refer to them, you can relist them, basically take them down and relist them as a new listing. So again, we're talking about those American Eagle jeans, of which there are so many out on the market today. Obviously you want to share, so it's in that just shared pool. But every 60 days, if your item hasn't sold on Poshmark, they allow you to delist and relist that item and have it show up fresh in the just listed category, which again is going to be ranked a little bit higher than just shared, right? So this helps you with where those jeans are going to show up in the search algorithm. So I build this into my listing time, right? So I know that, okay, so say generally every day I have somewhere between 5 and 10 listings that go stale. So I just know that every day I'm going to have those 5 and 10 listings that I'm going to be able to delist and relist on all of my platforms. Inevitably, something shakes out as a sale. It's a great way to get kind of older things back up. Like if you're not relisting, you are really shooting yourself in the foot. If you're not relisting and you're not sharing, your listings are dead on arrival, right? Like you kind of have to share, you have to relist to keep those things, especially if you're selling things that are like mall brands, Old Navy, Target, American Eagle, Gap, etc. Like if you're selling more unique things where there's just less out in the market, that's a different beast. You should still be periodically relisting your listings. Relisting is such a great tool, especially if you have like a bigger closet. If you want to slow down on sourcing for a little bit, or maybe you're at capacity, you don't have to necessarily be listing new things every day to keep up with that consistency part of it, right? Like to feed into that consistency part of the algorithm. Relisting counts towards that as well. So for me personally, every day I list a few new items and I relist a few new items. So it's a blend of older things that I'm getting back into the top of the algorithm and new things that I'm pulling in from stuff that I've just sourced. So make sure you're taking time to relist. It's super important and it will help, especially if you've got a lot of older inventory that you haven't relisted in a long time. Start doing it a little bit every day and guaranteed some of those items will start to shake out as sales. It's also a really good time if you've got a lot of really old listings that have just kind of been sitting there for a long time. When you relist it, it's a great time to like take a look at it. Do you need to re-keyword it? Do you need to take a new picture of it, or your picture's dark or bad or whatever the case may be? It's just an opportunity to look to see if there's any way to improve the listing that'll further help it get into the right eyeballs and ultimately end in a sale. So take your opportunity to do it. And again, bite-sized chunks, do it in a sustainable manner. Don't try to do it all at once. Don't waste all of that all at once. Just do a couple a day, and sure enough, those will start moving for you. My number 9 tip, is to use your offers to likers. Every platform has a function to do this. Some make it easier than others, but it's super, super important. Most of my sales come from offers to likers, right? So with Posh Sidekick, my sharing app that I use, I'm able to set it so if somebody likes one of my items within a certain amount of time, I can send an offer for a percentage off. And again, that is how most of my sales come in through Poshmark. It is worth the time to do it. Depop has a function where you can do that. If people have liked your item, you can send an offer. You can also set listings that if a specific listing gets a like, you can send an offer of X amount of dollars off of that price. As far as I know, you have to do it individually on each item, but just know if you don't have a huge inventory and you're just listing a couple things a day, you can go in and set that on each one of your items. So that is running automatically in the background all the time. Mercari has a similar function. eBay has a similar function. eBay, I go in a couple times a day and I'll send offers to likers. Poshmark, I have the automatic thing set up. If you don't want to spend on a sharing app, you can do bulk offers to likers through the same bulk listing actions that you can do the share to followers. So you go in there and you can add like a bulk offers to likers. This is also a great way to do a sale, right? So say you want to do like a closet clear out that's not on part of one of their closet clear out days, which is a whole other beast. Say you want to clear out a huge chunk of inventory, you can go in there and send out a 50% offer to everybody who's liked one of your items. So it's a super valuable tool. Again, you don't have to get a sharing app. If you're at a bigger level, I recommend it. I think it's money well spent. It pays for itself many times over in a month for me, but I totally understand budgets are budgets. Some people don't carry big inventory. Some people are just doing this as a little side hustle. It's probably not worth it. So you can leverage those offers to likers to move a lot of inventory. That's always a good thing to pull out if you need to move some inventory pretty quickly. And I always recommend that you build in a little bit of negotiation room in your pricing so you can do stuff like that and get stuff moved. Because perceived value is a very real thing. You know how Amazon's been kind of coming under heat for their Prime days, where like a few days before Prime Day, companies will like raise their prices to make it look like they have a bigger discount on Prime Day. Like it's kind of the same game, but negotiation is part of reselling. But leverage those offers to likers, guys, on all of your platforms. Set aside a couple minutes every day to send out offers. Again, most of my sales come through that. Either I'll get a counter offer from it or they'll buy it straight from my offer. It's a super valuable tool. Again, whether you're using an app or whether you're just doing it manually, super, super valuable, and it will help you get those more consistent sales. And my number 10 tip, and this is something that everybody should do, and this is like foundational for what I talk about here, guys, it's be a good seller. At the end of the day, customer experience matters. There's a lot of sellers out there that are sending out crap. And I'm sure every single person that's watching this video, in fact, let me know your worst experience down below. I'm sure every single one of us has received something that is dirty or stained, not as represented, whatever the case may be. And listen, everybody's going to make mistakes. Everybody's going to miss something. Lord knows I have. And when that happens, make good on it, right? If you send something out and you didn't realize that there was damage here, or whatever the case may be, take it back, refund it, don't fight it, give these people a good experience. Because here's what happens. If you as a seller send something to somebody and it's not as represented, and obviously there are people that scam out there, but there are also people that get something and they're like, well, this is stained, what am I going to do with it? If you send something out and it's damaged or there's something about it that you didn't catch, I'm gonna believe with all of my heart that none of you watching this are gonna send out something knowingly with damage that you didn't represent. Again, understanding that every single one of us will miss things from time to time, especially if you're a high volume seller. So I'm going to act on that assumption. But if you send something out that's damaged, it's not as, it's not as represented, just make good on it. Because here's what happens. If you send something out and it's damaged and they can't get their money back, and these people have just spent whatever amount of dollars for something that they can't wear, or that's a terrible taste in their mouth. And guess what? They will never come back and shop secondhand again. And I've had some experiences where it's so bad that I've considered never coming back and buying something on resale again. I've had that experience, and I'm a seller. So what I'm saying here is every time you give somebody a good experience, and that is either you sell them something that's in great condition, that's great quality for a great price, and you ship it quickly and you ship it safely, or if you accidentally missed some damage, whatever the case may be, and you made it right for them, that's giving them a great experience. They will come back. Every time somebody has a bad experience, that's one less person in the potential buyer pool. And that is going to hurt all resellers. I'm a firm believer in a rising tide lifts all boats. So if we are all good sellers and we do our best to give quality products, we ship in a good amount of time, we keep our items clean, whatever we have to do. If we make a mistake, we make it right one way or another. The more we all do that, the more people will be hype about buying secondhand. And that matters to all of our bottom line. So be a good reseller. We want consistent sales. We have to be providing a consistently good experience. And that is not just something that you do, which I have a ton of repeat buyers, not just viewers of my videos, but I do have a ton of repeat buyers. I'm very lucky about that. And that all comes from providing a great experience. People know that I'm a safe person to buy from. If they're going to buy from me, they're going to get good quality stuff. It's going to be shipped right. It's going to be shipped in a reasonable amount of time. And if something's wrong with it, and I catch it before I ship it out, I'm going to refund it. If something's wrong with it and it makes it to them, I'm going to make it right. But the more experiences like that we collectively as resellers provide to buyers in resale markets, the more people will be in this marketplace. And that matters to every single one of us watching this video and beyond this video. And that is a hill I will die on. But that is it, guys. That is my 10 tips to get more consistent sales. I know that this was heavily algorithm based, but at the end of the day, that is the game you've got to play. If you want more consistent sales, you have to do everything that you can to get your items up in those search rankings, in the eyes of more potential buyers. That's how you get more consistent sales. Hopefully this was helpful to you guys. If you have anything to add on to any of the points that I made in this video, please put them down in the comments below. I love this community that we're building. It always just melts my heart when I see you guys helping each other out in the comments. It's just so beautiful. So guys, if you have any other content like this that you would like to see, also let me know down below. I'm always ears open. I love making this kind of stuff for you. I love the thought that we are all working to make the reselling experience better for everybody involved, both sellers and buyers. But guys, if you had fun, please consider leaving a like or a comment on this video. Of course, don't forget to hit subscribe. I would love to have you along on this journey. But without further ado, guys, have the most beautiful week. Happy hunting, and I will see you all in the next.